Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today, I guess we're talking about TNA Bound for Glory must-haves. Now, I guess I'm going through this in some ways to sort of calm myself down a little bit in some ways, and I guess lower my own expectations of what could and will or is potentially going to happen at Bound for Glory and that sort of thing. Because is it a must have that we must absolutely have some of these things that I kind of want? No, it's not an absolute must have, but it just would be nice to have these sorts of things. Like I said before, it would really be nice to have AJ Styles back in TNA and having a match at the show. I think the most logical and most like the best person for him to work with on the roster is Josh Alexander. Like, maybe Moose makes some amount of sense. Like, you could see that could make some sense. I think like they're on par with each other in terms of making sense, perhaps EY, but then again, I think AJ's had a lot of matches with EY, so I don't really see that as a match that people might want to see it, but it's not the main match that people would want to see. They'd more want to see AJ against like somebody that's of the current crop that he hasn't wrestled before. Someone like Josh or someone like Moose, perhaps. Maybe Eddie Edwards, because he hasn't really I don't really think they've ever really wrestled. But still, there's a few people that are on those younger talents. I guess you're still kind of counting Eddie in that younger crop of talent that perhaps AJ didn't really work with when he was there and whatnot. You know, still maybe that you could see that there. Perhaps there are a few other great talents that are there, obviously, but they're just not on that same level as being like part of the furniture per se, being part of the face of the company. If you think of TNA right now, in my opinion at least, you think of like Eddie Edwards, Moose, and Josh Alexander, and then Joe Hendry, or probably Joe Hendry first. But like like those are the sorts of guys that you would think of at the forefront of the face of the brand right now. So you know that's where we're at. So just to say, like, we probably know what Joe Hendry's doing right now because there's been some like chatter about what he's probably doing. Now, I'm not 100% sure that this is what he's doing, so I'm not going to go too deep into saying what he's doing or not doing or potentials or whatever. But, like, again, like I was saying, who is the best person for AJ to work with if he was to come in? Like, Moose is a decent power style wrestler. Eddie Edwards is more of that strong New Japan sort of style, and Josh Alexander sort of has a very well rounded wrestling sort of style. So I really think that, Josh's style of being more of a person that has a more well rounded wrestling style would work with AJ's like high flying or sort of semi high flying style a lot more than the other two. Not to say that they couldn't have good matches, but I just don't think that they'd be as good as what somebody who is like Josh, who can really wrestle and really turns it on all the time. Like Eddie, he turns it on sometimes. I do find I've found his match with Santana to be really good. They really brought the fire out in each other in their match, even though it was just sort of mostly standard for the most part in terms of action or moves. In some sense, it was mostly chops and strikes and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think some people do negate that too much, but I do think that chops and strikes are a bit overused still, especially nowadays. It's like, well, and everyone's sort of seen it. Unless your chops and strikes are really, really good like Gunther's or whatever or whatnot, it's really tough to have really good strikes out there. Like even doing the kick strikes is like, yeah, unless you're like focusing in on a body part or something like that to weaken it or set up for a move later on, it's sort of one of those things that I don't feel like it really adds a whole lot to just a test of strength in a sense of, or test of wills, a back and forth context. Yes, that can work as part of a comeback. That's a bit different, but or whatever. But beyond that, I don't think these tests of will really work that much. I just don't. I think they're a bit overused, um, and whatnot. But again, it is what it is. That's sort of a part of modern wrestling. So, but again, going back to lowering my expectations, do we need AJ? We don't need AJ. That's the thing. We just don't need every single one of these things that I want, or even that I think the fans really want. We don't need them, but it would be that nice, great icing on the cake. It would be just so much better of a show if we had that, and like again, I've said this and said this and said this and said this, and it's been said and said and said that AJ is probably retiring at the end of this year or very very soon within this year. So when is there another chance for him to wrestle one last time in TNA except for at Bound for Glory? When would there be another opportunity for him to come back and him to wrestle? There's a very, very, very limited number of times that he'd be able to do that. So this is probably the one and only time that I think it makes any kind of sense for him to come back and do something. Should he go in the Hall of Fame? 1,000%, 10 million%, whatever like number of percent there is that we can fathom. 2 billion Googleplexes, 9 billion Googleplexes, whatever else it is. That's the number. The biggest number that you can think of, that's the number. Or even bigger. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. 10 billion quadrillion percent, whatever. Absolutely. Will it happen this year? I don't know. Even just that. Even if you're just going to say, well, he's not going to wrestle and whatnot, that's a little bit of a letdown. I think that, like you're saying he's going to retire this year and then he's not going to come back to TNA where he really started his career and really got going and whatnot and really made a household name for himself and whatnot. Okay, and he's just going to retire after this. Okay, that's a big letdown, but okay, all right, at least we got him back for the Hall of Fame and, we put him in and whatnot, and that's what happened. It's a little bit less than what the fans really want, but it will give the fans something. Like, if it doesn't happen this year, okay, sure, whatever. He doesn't want to retire this, or he doesn't want to go in the Hall of Fame this year. Okay, all right. Next year, or whatever. I don't know. But still, like, calling it, when you're going to call it quits, it's very tough. And I know he wants to retire sort of per se on top and in physical health. He doesn't want to like lag it out for too long and whatnot. So, and it's kind of like Sting, paint it like the Sting angle back when, AJ faced Sting. Is this really AJ's last match? Well, no one knows, not even AJ, because he doesn't know, it probably won't be. It might be. Who knows? We don't know. But again, he's not on WWE, and it's like, well, what's he doing? And TNA could use him, and that would, again, I think I talked about this before. It would be the ultimate, sign that this partnership is actually going somewhere. It's not just gonna keep going back and forth between, we'll send you some guys, we'll send you some guys, we'll send you some guys, we'll send you... just some lads. We'll send you some lads. We'll send you some gals. We'll sell you, whatever. No, we're actually going to send you a superstar. Your superstar that you made, and he made himself, yes, but still, whatever. You really made him. The TNA Impact Zone made him, realistically. You know, he made himself, yes, but there's a lot of amazing athletes and wrestlers out there that, never caught fire and never really got anywhere just because, you know, the fans weren't interested or whatever. So, but yeah, no, I think it would be the ultimate sign of, we definitely feel like this relationship has legs, has merit, and, we're really willing to, go whole hog on this, and we're not going to pull punches, and we're not going to just sandbag you or whatever, and we're not just going to send you some, young talent that basically have only just got their foot in the door, and you're not just going to send us, your top level talent. You can send us some, people that have just got their foot in the door or whatever, and whatnot, so that they can, be on another level and whatnot. So, but yeah, just again looking to say, well, we haven't seen Kylan back. I really, 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 really want to see her back. I hope that she can recover at least in this year. I wanted to see her win the title. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. I felt like that would have been a big thing. Like, she really needed to come back already. I do kind of hope that she returns at least at Bound for Glory, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. I kind of wouldn't mind seeing her win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. That wouldn't be bad. But then again, it's like, well, it's a little bit late. I don't know. And there's a lot of other people that are in contention, I feel like. Because as I said, I was saying, like, if AJ's not going to appear, then what plans have you got for Josh? And this is the thing, like, you've got to have a plan B for everyone and everything. Like if AJ's appearing, my plan A is for him and Josh to go at it. That would be my plan A. If he's not, then my plan B is put Josh in the gauntlet match and have Josh win the gauntlet match, and then have him cash in his Call Your Shot Gauntlet at the end of Bound for Glory, just like Moose did to him, what was it, 2 years ago? They have been painting some level of sort of synergy between, like, Nick Nemeth's run, where he's the fighting champion, and Josh Alexander, and he's been involved in this story. I don't know. I said before, maybe Kazarian should win it. I don't know. It's a really tough thing to say or to try to figure out. I said that before, that it kind of felt like I more wanted to see Kazarian versus Nemeth at Bound for Glory. I actually don't think that that's that big of a match, but I think that it makes narrative sense, at least. Whereas I think that, seeing Henry versus Nemeth, unless Nemeth's going to turn heel, it doesn't make that much narrative sense for two baby faces to go against each other. I guess you could figure it out. But it's just one of those things that it's just like, they're like, you need these people to kind of pick one side, and I feel in reality people are going to just side with Joe Hendry. They're not going to side with Nick Nemeth, no matter who he is and how popular he has been, and no matter what TNA has done. They have done that. Actually, somebody actually really pissed me off the other day in some ways about saying something about Nick Nemeth. Lemel, whatever. I wouldn't watch that because they've got Nick Nemeth as their champion. You know what? It's crazy because it's like, bro, I felt like everyone and their dog was talking about Dolph Ziggler and whatnot in WWE being underrated and, being underpushed and whatnot and all of this sort of stuff and everyone thought that he should be up there and whatnot and doing, being one of the top guys, and they wanted to see him be the top guy, you know, but they never really pulled that trigger, and it really sucked that they didn't really give him anything. But again, that is what it was, and you know, you can't do anything about that. It is the problem of perception, though, in a sense that, you know, he's been sort of labeled as this mid card, you know, or you know, like jobber or whatever. Even though TNA, like, you can't always put someone in the main event of every single show. TNA did a good job for the most part of pushing Nemeth. Like the first show that he was at, he was the main event of the show alongside Moose. You know, giving him the ball and giving him a chance to showcase whether he could, you know, hang with the top guys in the company. And some people might have said, well, that's a stupid, you know, route to take in a sense. Like, you're not showcasing that your roster is, or you're only showcasing that your roster is as good as a WWE jobber, effectively. If you watched the match and seen how hard they worked their asses off up to the level of a WWE main eventer. They had a main event level match out there. So to say that, you know, they're putting on a show to showcase somebody as being on the, or being just above a jobber, no, obviously you do not understand. Like, and again, I think that term and that way of looking at things is, you know, a little bit misguided, because in the end of the day, everybody does the job for somebody at some point. You know, you've got to put people over. You can't be over all the time, or you can't win all the time. It doesn't really work like that. You've got to lose sometimes as well, and that, like, some losses can damage your aura, but some losses will not damage your aura. It depends what you do with that, or it depends where you go with that. You know, like, I looked at Jake Something's record before, or after he came back. I think it was that he lost for like 6 months or whatever it was. And then he turned heel, and I was like, okay, now I'm interested, because now there's a narrative shift. So now could we see him, like, climb back up that ladder, and could we see something new from him? We didn't really see that much new from him, but, you know, him and Hammerstone got a win, so that's sort of a good step in the right direction. So I don't want to go too far into talking about this, but again, it's just those little things that you start saying, well, there's a narrative shift, so there's been a character change, and there's this new look, there's this new direction for this person, or that there's, you know, something for them, they're doing something, or they got a win, you know, like, so there's something there. After 6 months of long hard work, they've gotten a win, which was important, or whatever it was, you know. They've been trying so hard and trying so hard, and they've finally had this slight narrative shift. They haven't had a full-on shift yet, but they have, you know, shifted some narrative. Now, where are we going? You know, like, now it starts to feel like, well, is he going to feud with his cousin, you know, and whatnot? So where's that going? But again, I think that that's a low-level expectation. I think some of the higher-level expectations, and I've seen this one around, like, that Natty, by nature, what's her name? Natalia, is coming into TNA to wrestle Jordan Grace. And a lot of people want to see it. Hey, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Definitely not. But my expectation, I guess, of that is, like, very, very low. I don't expect it to happen, or I don't think that it'll happen, at least not right now. So I think the boat has kind of sailed on that for now. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe it will one day or at some point, whatever, I don't know. But for now, I think the ship has kind of sailed on that, and I think it's clear where we're going right now. It's, in a sense, it's clear that we're building towards Rosemary, and Jordan Grace fighting it out. So at least at Bound for Glory. So like I'm only going to guess I'm thinking about the more major matches. I'm not really thinking of, like, I hate to say that it's not a major match, but I'm not really thinking about the women's tag team division. I'm not really thinking about the men's tag team division. I'm thinking, like, I don't know whether to think about the X division match because it's like, again, it feels like they've flip-flopped so much with, like, the tag teams and the X division of late. And it's like this week, I think it is. It's like, yeah, there's some good tag team wrestling going on there. Got First Class versus Sinner and Satan. I haven't seen Sinner and Satan in a while, and I've been like, I don't think I actually mentioned it, but I was starting to think, bro, when are they coming back? Where are they at? What are they doing? Aren't they signed? Like, it sucks to not be able to have all these guys on the roster or on the show all the time or every week. But for God's sakes, they can't be off the TV for more than a few weeks. Like, they have to be there at least once in a month. Like, like, I don't know. I kind of want to see Sinner and Saint win because I like Sinner and Saint. I think that they're very talented from what we've seen, and I think that they could be, great in that tag team division. Then they've been a tag team for, I don't know, however many years. I don't know. But again, like, they could be a great young tag team that, someday will, maybe even next year will win the tag team titles. Who knows? But, maybe in a couple of years they'll win the tag team titles. I think they're that talented that they definitely would be up there. But again, it's just like, I kind of want to see them win, but I don't think they're going to win. But it would be cool to kind of see them win. But just like the Bound for Glory Gauntlet is usually one of those things that they stuff some returns and debuts in. So, and it's usually also a thing for a lot of the people that they kind of don't have anything else for them to do. So, in a sense at least, so it would be nice to kind of see some returns and some debuts or whatever else in that. But again, it's sort of like, well, I don't know. I think Xia Li or whatever, Xia Zhao, whatever she's going by now, I haven't quite caught up with what her new name is, sorry. So it's going to take me a while. I think it takes a while for everyone to go, oh yeah, this is this person's new name now, and yeah, we've got to call them that now. Like, so yeah, do give me a minute, guys, to process that, because I don't think it's actually been 100% revealed, and I think she's debuting this week. So I'm not sure, but again, like, I don't see that you could build her to being a challenger for Jordan at Bound for Glory within a month. And I don't think there's a story there that you could tell. There's already a story there that you're telling with Rosemary. And I guess I'm kind of also looking at, guys like Josh Alexander. I've already sort of talked a bit about a story that, where's he going from here? What does he do now? How does he rebound? What's his focus? What is it? Like, I think a story with AJ would make sense 100%. When he's saying, no, I'm the face of the company, I built this house, blah, blah, blah. Then you fucking put AJ's music on and people will lose their ape shit fucking minds to think that AJ is actually going to come out and actually going to appear in TNA. And people will cry and like it will be like as if CM Punk, when CM Punk returned, I think, it will be that level of insane crazy if it happens. I know it might not, but again, it's just I don't want to heighten my expectations, but it makes so much goddamn sense, guys. It makes so much goddamn sense. Like, if you're not going to do that, then what do you, like I said before, like, you could do something with him, but then there's no, I don't know, there's no clear direction. There's no clear opponent for him, like, beyond, like, Hendry or whatever. And when somebody takes a loss, or even two losses, two big losses, now it's not going to, again, it sort of does diminish his aura a little bit, but it's not diminished his aura completely. He's still up there. People still know how great he is, and he is still that great. It's one of those things you've got to rehabilitate him. He cannot just keep losing and losing and losing and losing, because otherwise his credibility will go down, 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 down. And then when he does come back to face Joe Hendry, it's like, well, we know he can't win. He needs to be seen like, yeah, maybe he lost to Joe, but maybe he can win because we've seen him win this other. Again, it's sort of very tough sometimes. It's like, yeah, we know Josh was a great champion, and it is kind of like what they were sort of going through with the Nemeth story. We know he was a great champion and whatnot, but that was then and this is now. Like, like, what have it's very much, what have you done for me lately? Always. It's like, well, you haven't won it recently, and what else is there to say? Like, you just haven't won it recently, and you've been here and you've kind of had a couple opportunities at it, and like you haven't been able to pull it out. So again, it's just one of those things that if this has happened with a few other wrestlers that have been there and whatnot. It's happened to Callahan, it's happened to Steve Macklin, it's happened to a few guys that have kind of been there, and like, if they're happy with that, I guess it's fine. But again, I definitely wouldn't be. But again, it's just, that's the way it is. Like, they've sort of fallen down the card, and even when they've had some things that felt like this is going somewhere, this is building back to them, potentially being in that mix, and I still think that Macklin kind of is in that mix a bit. But I definitely don't think Callahan is. He's kind of been pushed back way down, like, and he's lost a lot of his aura from where he kind of was, which is not great to see. I think that he is still a really, great performer and whatnot, and he definitely does deserve a lot more, and especially up to the top of the card and whatnot. I think he could have a really good story with Rich Swann when he comes back, but I don't know whether they're going to try to do that, or he's just going to go back into first class or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. But still, like, you've got to keep things moving for them. You've got to keep them in the mix at being near that top. It's like, well, what have you done, lately? So again, but yeah, like, rehabilitating him with a win at Bound for Glory over somebody like AJ Styles would set that to be like, holy shit, like, again, or again, you could do it in any number of ways. It doesn't 100% have to be like that, but again, like, you still need to make him feel like this guy can win. It's not like, oh yeah, he got in the call your shot gauntlet, and then he somehow, won somehow by hook or by crook, or by, shenanigans, or by surprise, or by luck, or by whatever. Yes, you can do that, but again, like, that doesn't really help his legitimacy. Like, yes, you can do some cheeky heel things and whatnot. Certainly that gets that heat, and that is important and whatnot. But again, you don't want your heel to look completely fangless. Like, if somebody comes along and beats somebody that doesn't have any fangs, it's like, well, that doesn't matter because you beat nobody. you might as well have not won, or might as well have, not even faced them, because they were such a jobber or such a person that had no stock in those standings at that point, that it was like, well, that win didn't really mean anything, and it won't lead to anything. So that's where you can't be. You can't be just getting these wins or these losses or whatnot and them not meaning anything. They need to lead to something or mean something, and whatnot. So, and wins and losses need to affect people, or I don't know, promos or moments or whatever need to affect people. He tapped out, not just once, but twice, and that puts over Hendry really big. And again, as I said, I felt like that could have been a Bound for Glory match. That could have been on the Bound for Glory card, or whatever, or it could have even been in, a number one, literally sanctioned as a number one contendership match. It would have made 1,000% sense, but could have made some amount of sense. That's already kind of the way that I feel like they're going, and this hasn't been 100% confirmed, and we'll wait to see. But again, the most major, well, beyond the world title match picture, there's nothing else that could rival that match, realistically. You want people, you want your Stings, right? They had that. They had their Kurt Angles, right? They had their Kevin Nashes. They had their Booker T's. They had their Samoa Joes. They had legends and icons and wrestlers from the past. And I actually think that Booker T could come back. I almost feel like there's something there with, he's been commentating in NXT, and he's been running down on most of the TNA guys and whatnot. I feel like there's a story there, and you could really explore that. He kind of had a rough time in TNA when he was there and whatnot. He has some bad taste in his mouth and whatnot. So play off that, make that real, give him something to do at Bound for Glory, and I don't know what it is, but again, there could be something there too. But again, are they actually going to do it? That's the thing. Every single thing that I think from coming from the WWE to TNA is I don't know. I could take it or leave it for the most part. Almost anything. Pretty much. There's give us back friggin' Sanjay Dutt. Give us back, Abyss, give us back Bobby Roode. They can be the bookers, or they can be the, behind the scenes production crew stroke, trainers stroke bookers, whatever, agents, whatever, all of that stuff. Give us our TNA guys back, give us our guys back that are TNA guys. WWE doesn't need those guys, really. Do you? Do you really need them? And as if you do need them, it's you've got Randy Orton there, you've got, I don't know how many other people that are there that you could say, okay, well, we'll transition you into a backstage role. Kevin Owens or whoever else. There's so many people that are there, or they have the pockets to, friggin' bring in anyone and anyone from anywhere. That's well, what is this? I don't know. But, anyone that's a in-ring talent in this year that WWE, even on the main roster, that I think that TNA fans would be interested in seeing and would pay money to see at Bound for Glory. It's not like people wouldn't pay to see Roman Reigns. It's not like people wouldn't pay to see Cody Rhodes. But, like, and again, I don't want to say that that's an expectation, but, like, even if it was a somewhat expectation or thought that people could have, like, what narrative purpose does it serve? Not just, can we do this? Yes, we obviously can do it. Like, obviously, you can do anything that you want to do, but what narrative purpose does it serve to send Roman Reigns to TNA? He has no connection to TNA whatsoever. Yes, Cody has some connection to TNA and whatnot. So I guess you could send him to TNA, but for what? Why? Like, I don't think sending him to TNA, like, people have talked about him coming to TNA and doing something. I just don't see that. I don't see what narrative purpose it would serve for him to come to TNA if somebody from TNA came to wrestle against him. Okay, sure, that makes some amount of sense. Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe you could figure it out, like he still has a beef with Moose or something. I don't know. Like, but then again, it still doesn't make sense because it's like, well, why? Like, unless it, like, someone from TNA costs him the title or something and he's just there to wrestle a match that, is like, fuck you, get out of my business type thing, then okay, whatever. Or something like that. Maybe Lethal Lockdown, I'd still want to see that. Who knows? But still, like, it's one of those things. It's just, what is the reason for doing this? Where is the, like, contextual, like, for this? It's not just, let's send Cody down to TNA. Why? Like, the people that believe that, like, I wouldn't mind. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, like, when people think of the narrative purpose of something, like, what is the benefit for Cody to go to TNA? Unless, like, again, as I said, something happens from somebody, Moose, example, costing him the title. There isn't one. There isn't a reason for him to go there and do anything at that show unless there is a very legitimate challenge for him to overcome at that show. Or whatever else it is. Or deal with some business. Whatever else it is. That doesn't exist because there's no narrative connection between most of the WWE main roster and TNA. So it only exists between NXT and TNA. So the only wrestlers that you can conceivably think of that would be able to go to TNA, or TNA would be able to go to on the main or on WWE, are in NXT. So the only people that make some amount of sense are perhaps Chelsea Green and Mia Yim. On the women's side, what's Zelina Vega doing? I don't even know. That's the only other one that I think makes any kind of sense that's over there in WWE. Because I think that she's, like, not doing that much over there in WWE, which is BS. Like, again, same with Mia and same with Chelsea. They're, like, seemingly not doing a whole lot, like, and whatnot. Like, if they're happy to be, like, just a part of the crew and just, quote unquote a good hand or whatever, okay, sure, that's your role. Like, all right. But, like, you want stuff to sink your teeth into, like, but still. Or just, like, again, renew old rivalries or whatever, something else, showcase something else on, WWE, showcase something else on, re-showcase it in TNA, get more people to tune in and watch that big show that's coming up, whatever else it is, even if it's just on a weekly episode or whatever else it is. Mia Yim had a really good run in TNA. The last run that she had, the run before that, I didn't get to see it, but I heard it was pretty darn good. as well. And Chelsea Green, her first run, didn't really get to see it. I think I saw maybe the tail end of it. I don't know about it, but I heard it was pretty darn good. And then her second run in TNA was really good too. Like, so it's like, and again, like when Trinity came to TNA, it was like she had an amazing run because TNA went, okay, we know what to do with you. We know you're a star. Let's treat you like a star and let's give you a division of women to fight against. You've got to prove yourself, but like we'll give you the space and the opportunity to showcase yourself against the best and that we have to offer. And they did that. Same with a lot of the other people. Like they did that. When they got those people and they got that opportunity, they said, okay, well, we're going to do our best with what we've got and give you those positions that we can give you. That's the thing. Like, that's what worries me about some of the WWE stuff. Is like, it's outside of their hands, and it's like the New Japan relationship a little bit. Sometimes it feels like, no, and like for guys who are like just getting their foot in the door or whatever, okay, that's fine. I understand that they're going to lose, like, or whatever, or probably not going to win. It was really weird that, what's his name? Riley Osborne won a match in TNA, but sure, whatever, they wanted to have a NXT star in the Ultimate X so that they could, have that or whatever. I don't think anyone bought the show to see one NXT guy that was effectively just a young kid that's just getting their foot in the door wrestle in TNA in the Ultimate X. So, but whatever, maybe some people did, but not. I wouldn't think very many did. I think people were buying the pay-per-view to see a lot of the other stuff that was on the show, not like they probably were buying the show to see the Ultimate X. They probably weren't buying it to see some NXT guy you've probably never heard of or almost never heard of wrestle in a match in TNA. Like, I really don't think that. But yeah, like, like, either way, the work that Jordynne Grace has done with WWE recently, I felt like, well, she's going to fight Rosemary maybe at Victory Road or something like that, and then it's going to be over. And then what's she going to do for Bound for Glory, which is why I was like, oh, I hope Kylan King returns soon so that she can have a big run and have a few matches under her belt, and whatnot, and then challenge Jordynne at Bound for Glory, But again, we'll have to wait and see about that. But it's just like, I hope she returns at some point because, like, we want to see her, like, and like, she's been robbed of almost the whole freaking year in that injury. And I feel like she needs to come back with a fury and a vengeance and freaking, win that title, which I think she should have won, in my opinion, at some point, or I think she should win at some point, or at least try to win that title, like, and whatnot. So I don't know, but still, yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough to lower those expectations a little bit and say, okay, do we really need this? How worse will the show be without it? I mean, like, if you say, well, the whole Kylan King one, I guess that, like, what do you call it? The more casual fans probably won't care that much, but I guess they'll get a bit of a kick out of it. Okay, whatever. That's probably pretty medium and probably not that high of an expectation or whatever, or high of a bar to set. That's probably okay. But I think, like, again, like, AJ, I think it might just be a step too far. I don't know. It's shit in many, many, many ways that I think that that's not going to happen. I hate it in that way. I want it so badly to happen, and I think that a lot of fans really in TNA really want it to happen. I think even people in WWE kind of want it to happen in a way because it's like, you know, I don't know. They understand the situation that AJ's in, and they understand like the history that he's had and whatnot. So just having that, and even again, like if it's not against Josh, like who else? Like it's really hard to figure out anyone else that makes any kind of sense and that could have a great match against him at Bound for Glory and have a poignant match that really resonated and met the fans' expectations of this is probably AJ's last match, you know, and this is the chance to see it, you know. Really, this is it, you know, or potentially it, you know, again. So that expectation or whatever, or that lingering in the mind of a lot of people is just, we want that. That's what we want. But unfortunately, are we going to get it? I think that that's too lofty of a goal, unfortunately. And I'll be pleasantly surprised if it does happen. I'll absolutely go crazy if it is going to happen, or is any point looking like it's going to happen. I will love the hell out of it. I will probably go crazy and cry and whatever. I don't know. Like that's what it means to us. It's it's infathomable to us that it will happen, but it's also infathomable to us that it won't happen, in a sense. But anything else, like, we could take it or leave it. Ethan Page coming over, sure, whatever, that's fine. I don't want to make it sound like that sucks or that's, donkey's butts or whatever. No, it's not. We would definitely appreciate that. But, again, talking back to the narrative purpose, what's the narrative purpose of bringing Ethan Page back to TNA? Literally, what's the narrative purpose? There isn't one. Again, if you, a lot of those younger wrestlers, if they're looking for an opportunity in TNA, sure. Give them that fucking chance to friggin' show that they are on that level. Wendy Chu, like I said before, basically never heard of her, basically. Kind of had heard of her, but never seen anything she'd done. And whatnot. And I didn't know how good she friggin' was. She was great. She put on a great show, and yes, you've got to have a good dance partner and whatnot and all of that. But again, if you're not, you've got to not be a slouch out there. You've got to be able to bring it, and she freaking brought it. And they did a great, thing out there, and now have newfound respect for her and admiration for her because I've seen how good she is in that ring and how well she can work and whatnot. So, her character, obviously, some people like it. Again, same thing with Rosemary and other characters like that. Some people like it, some people don't like it. Some people don't like the spooky nature. And some of the things that are on NXT, I feel like in some ways they try too hard in some ways. I don't know. I don't think that that's exactly the right way to put it, but they kind of get too gimmicky. They kind of get too cutesy and cheesy and corny. And if that was kind of like, it's a bit of a joke, like IPWF, like, sure, that's different when you're kind of like, it's an in joke and it's kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, whatever. That's a bit different or whatever. But then again, you're kind of going over the heads of some people, like, that this is a bit wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and then you're kind of baking kayfabe in some sort of sense. So I don't think it'd be really tough to sort of do that. So I don't know. I've seen it in some of these like wrestlers like that are sort of pretending to be gangsters. Like what? Like or whatever. And there's just so many little things that are like that. And I don't want to go too far into this, but again, it's like some of those things that they seem really goofy, and it just seems like, and that's perhaps just WWE's way of doing things or whatever, and perhaps I don't really, see that on Raw or SmackDown or whatever, but that's not the sort of thing that I would think is something that you should be continuing to do. You need to find things that work and resonate with people. Not everyone has to be the same, but you have to find the things that fit the people that are there, like in front of you, each individual person, and perhaps even each individual group. Each individual person in a group has to be themselves in some regard and work. So you can't just have, the whole, these guys are Italian mobsters or whatever, and they're wearing, suspenders and whatever the hats are or whatnot, and Mamma Mia. Like, what? These are some bad stereotype bullshit, like, but, yeah, like, I don't know. It seems very cheesy and very bad stereotypy. That's just like, man, like, these people wouldn't wander around like this, like in real life, and do this sort of thing in real life. So don't make them do things that are clear or basically clearly not real or realistically in some regards. Make everything realistic in some regard. Like you this person's Italian and they have an Italian background. So, like it seems somewhat real that they would have some of that sort of stuff. Not just I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into it, but just like some of those sorts of things just get on my nerves about it. It's like, man, like, what are you doing? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, dudes. Are there any other wrestlers? Like, what's her name? Roxanne Perez. My brain is farting, absolutely farting. Besides, like, Roxanne, besides, like, Natty, who's on the male side of the roster? Wes? I don't know. Is there any wrestlers in NXT that are former TNA talent? I can't think of anyone specifically. Like, there are a couple of people that are on the main roster, like Xavier Woods, though he was not really there that long. I don't know. Like, I think we went through a fair few people once to say, like, let's figure out a TNA invasion or whatever. It was kind of funny. I think this was mostly on Facebook or whatever, but it's like every guy that was ever there or ever had anything to do with TNA, put them all in a team and don't tell anyone and see if people will twig to say, wait a minute, all these guys were in TNA. Wait a minute. At one time or another or whatever. It'd be funny to sort of see, like, these guys that are all been in TNA. Like, in a team, and then it's like, wait a minute. And like WWE Survivor Series is coming up. I think at some point I kind of really want to see TNA in there too, but I doubt that it's going to happen. Kind of just want to see it. I just think it would be cool and funny, but I think that's after Bound for Glory anyway. So I think you need to start looking at doing things like that. You need to have not just these individuals crossing the line, here and there and whatever. You need more than that. You need to start saying, no, this is not just one person here, one person there, one person. No, no. We're getting a lot of people. The whole roster's effectively coming over, and we're going to see how it goes. You know, or we're going to see the tag team champs. We're going to see these people. We're going to see these people and these people, or whatever it is. Like, they're going to have Wes and Wesley and Wentz. Is it next week, I think? On the first episode of NXT on the CW network. And they're building that up pretty big right now. So I have the distinct feeling that Wesley is winning. But who knows? Could be anything. And you start looking at, well, is Wentz? I keep getting those two, like, really, their names are pretty darn close, so it's hard to really distinguish them sometimes a little bit, like, yeah. But is Wentz going to challenge Bailey at Bound for Glory? Doesn't matter, right? I don't know, dude. I kind of think he will. But will he win the title? At this point, that title is yo-yoed between so many people. It's like ridiculous at this point. So I feel like the title needs to settle down. But it also is like, it's on in my opinion, at least the wrong person. Really, and I don't know who you can pick in that division right now to really carry it. Like, I don't know, dude. It's super tough because Bailey. He's a great wrestler, and I think that's pretty much it. Like, he can be a really good babyface when he's got a really good opponent, or a really good story to kind of sink his teeth into, like Mustafa Ali sort of had for him. But now it's just kind of like, man, there's nothing. Like, Wentz has the story. Bailey doesn't have the story. And Wentz is just as good of a wrestler, if not, maybe better. I don't know. But he hasn't really had that time to shine. And I feel like you could turn him heel, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. But something needs to give in that division in some ways. Because, like, without, again, narrative purpose going forward, it's going to be, like, very dull and very boring to watch through Bailey's run. Like, without him having any really great opponents. So, even with Wes, it'd be sort of a similar sort of story, and again, unless it turns heel. But again, it's like, at least I can invest a lot more in Wentz than I can in Bailey. I don't know, because I guess he makes me feel some more, and he has more of a connection to the audience, at least from my perspective, at least from what I feel. when I see it. Like, I think, it's very tough sometimes, and it's a little bit like maybe Bailey should turn heel. I don't freaking know. But again, like, I don't know. It's tough to say, but again, it's just one of those things. That's, I guess, the expectation, or perhaps the expectation is same as said with the tag champions. It's like same thing. Like, you're gonna go back to the ABC. Like, I don't know. Like, how many friggin' thousands of times or hundreds of times have we seen this? It's like getting ridiculous again. Same thing with like Spitfire and the militia or whatever else is going on there. It was kind of like, yeah, well, we've seen all this and it's pretty much the same, even so, and it's probably going to be pretty much the same with Alicia and Steels. So, and they just don't have many other teams there. Like, at least in the men's division, they do have some other teams, but it doesn't feel like really any of them are kind of on par with being like the top of the division right now or near that top of that division. Um, so it's a little bit stinky poo poo in some regards with that. Um, you know, and not having somebody else to, yeah, like same with the X Division. Doesn't feel like there's anyone else there to really step up and being that next person that's featured in that space, right? So it's tough. Like, same with the women's division, unless Kylan comes back or unless Killer Kelly comes back, it sort of starts feeling like, well, there's no one really there besides Jordan, because Jordan's run through the whole friggin' division at this point. So it's just like, like, unless you're bringing in a lot of, younger talent for her to work with, like, what's she gonna do from now? Like, she's got no one to work with. Like, she's been so dominant, and it's just like, wow, like, there's no one where else for her to go except to, like, sort of restart or, do something else or whatever. So, or go away, like, so yeah, it is tough. But again, like, every other division, I think, feels mostly strong. Like, the heavyweight division, I don't want to keep calling it that, but the main event division or the top of the card does feel pretty darn strong for the most part. So, but again, it's sort of keeping everything together, keeping it all going towards the same goal. And you've got to have that. But again, you can't neglect everything else that's on the card and on the show and whatnot. So, yeah, but they do the best of what they can sometimes. And like, I heard that Moose, I don't remember how long his friggin' deal is for now, but it was a fairly long-term deal from what I remember. But I think he said, like, in a recent interview, that he'd retire at the end of his deal, his current deal. He's not going to go to WWE, he's just going to retire. Okay. In some ways that's good, because like, he could go to WWE and he could do stuff, but like, if you're happy with that and happy with not going there, that's pretty cool and whatnot, because like, it's a lot of work. It really is. Even for the lower level guys, it's a lot of work. So, you know, going there and going to say, hey, no, I'm not going there. Josh saying, hey, I'm at least open to offers. Depends. Like, I read between the lines a little bit in that, and saying that, some people have said, oh, he's willing to leave. Yeah, no, not really. He's willing to hear other options. He's willing to see what people will offer him to come and work there. That's it. In my opinion, again, people should take a step back. And no matter how much I don't like AEW or whatever, I don't hate them. And I think they are good for the business, and I think they're good for the industry, etc. But if you take a step back and look at the roster and how everything's going over there, I don't think Josh Alexander would do very well in AEW. A lot of people have gone to AEW, had a good debut, and then just been lost in the shuffle and not really done a whole heck of a lot. So I don't really see that Josh could do a whole heck of a lot. So I don't think that AEW would be a good place for him. NXT doesn't feel like a space for him. Yellow, like maybe you could make it work. I don't know, but again, like I don't really see it. So then there's the main roster. I don't know whether they'd actually like do anything with him there in WWE. Like maybe I'm wrong. They've done stuff with Walter. Walter kind of feels like somewhat of a similar comparison in some ways. They obviously had Kurt Angle. They obviously have Braun Breaker, but I guess Braun Breaker is more of a power wrestler. Josh is more of a technical wrestler. They've had really great technical wrestlers over there in the past, though. They had Daniel Bryan, Chris Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko. Like, they've had great wrestlers, like, and have great wrestlers. So, like, I don't know how many times have those wrestlers really been, like, besides Kurt Angle, I guess that was pretty prolific at the top of the card, but how much of the time have they, like, been the focal point of the show and of the whole thing? It's like not very often. Like, so I could see some possibilities, but I see very limited possibilities there. So I do think that, what WWE would offer Josh to come over there, I'm sure they would want him and whatnot, but realistically, I think that they should look at going, well, yeah, we might want him, but what can we actually do with him? Like, and how can we position him to be our next breadwinner, or even just a guy that's a great stepping stone guy? But, like, you don't want wrestlers just to be great stepping stone guys. Like, that's not how they should work. They should feel special in of themselves to feel like they're an attraction and they will draw you money. That's why you need, that's what you need. You need so many people to feel like, holy crap, I've got to go and see Josh Alexander. I've got to go and see this person, that person, whatever person it is, because they're all feeling like they're important and they're an attraction to see in of themselves. It's not just, oh yeah, we'll see somebody else that's facing Josh Alexander. We're not really here to see Josh Alexander. He's just there. He's a, upper card job guy or whatever. He's a good wrestler, but he's an upper card job guy. Same thing with Dolph Ziggler. Coming back to that, like, he's just an upper card job guy, whatever. Don't really care, because we know that he's not going to pull it out, and he's, the company doesn't really care, and at this point he's lost for too long and for too much for people to believe in him. So it's like, well, obviously he's not going anywhere or moving up that card, because it's like, well, his level of legitimacy, no matter what he does and how he turns and twists and whatever else, is irrelevant. His position doesn't really change. So obviously there's no point in investing in him. that's what you've got to avoid with wrestlers and whatnot. So I just don't. I don't see that he could like have much real potential there. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it because I just think that I think that their machine probably wouldn't get behind him, and like they wouldn't push him to being one of the top guys. And so yeah, I don't know. I think Joe Hendry a bit different. I think that if Joe Hendry was to leave TNA and go to like he would be like the first person WWE would be like, shelling out the money for. They would absolutely get behind somebody like Joe Hendry and, rocket him up to being one of their faces of the company or whatever. Absolutely. 100%. Like, even in NXT, like, for a short period of time, maybe. I don't know. But I think that his level of popularity and him, whatnot, being able to get over with the audience and whatnot would really, work. And it wouldn't really change. I think that he could be that, and he could be the next John Cena or the next Cody Rhodes or be the next whoever. Like, he could be one of the next superstars on the horizons for WWE. So I think that they would 100% get behind him, 100% push him. And even in 4 or 5 years or something, whatever it is, he could be the WWE champion. Like, I don't know. Or be one of those top guys that everyone's talking about. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, beyond that, I don't really see that many people. Like, there's certainly some people that are there that I could see that WWE would be interested in. But again, that's the number one. Obviously. So, but yeah, guys, I keep thinking about Bound for Glory and the potential of things that could happen there, and I still really want, obviously, the biggest of cherries, but it's just how likely is it? And maybe I need to lower, as I said, my expectations, and maybe we collectively as TNA wrestling faithful need to lower our expectations and say, oh, well, it's probably not going to happen. And they'd be super jazzed if it does happen, but it's probably not going to happen. Just being a little bit more okay, WWE, so far you've given us not a lot to really work with. So, hey, well, we're not going to expect a whole lot. If you send us something, sure, okay, whatever, cool, thank you for sending us some guy, some gal, whatever, cool, whatever. You're letting us send our top guys over there, or you're just taking our top guys over there. Yep, sure, fine, I guess, whatever. At least that exposes our guys to that audience and whatnot, those people that are out there, to be able to see, TNA talent and go, holy crap, these TNA guys, they've got something down there, maybe we should go and check it out, etc., whatever. Again, maybe they are going to help TNA, and I hope they are going to help TNA get a better friggin', TV deal or some kind of other streaming sort of stuff, platforms, distribution, something. Again, so yeah, but we'll have to wait and see. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I have rambled on for quite a long time, so hope you will join me again in another one.